November 29th, 1944, the waters south of Japan, a huge shadow slides through the darkness. 70,000 tons of armored steel. The Shinano, the biggest aircraft carrier ever built, 872 feet of what Japan thought could never sink. Under her, one American submarine, the USS Archerfish, sneaks into the perfect spot to shoot. Neither crew realizes it yet, but what happens in the next few minutes will change naval history forever. This is the story of how the world's biggest carrier got sunk before she even got to fight, and how staying quiet, being patient, and shooting perfectly beat overconfidence wrapped in steel. The Battle of Midway has wrecked Japan's carrier fleet. 4 carriers lost in just one day. To get back their pride and power, Japanese admirals turned to a new symbol, Shinano. Originally started as the 3rd Yamato-class battleship, she was secretly turned into a huge support carrier designed to carry planes, fuel, and repair stuff for other carriers. Her armor is thicker than any carrier ever made. Designers say she could survive a dozen torpedo hits. In the eyes of the Imperial Navy, she isn't just a ship. She's proof that Japanese engineering can still win the war. But every weld carries an assumption that size and armor alone can make sure you win. Overconfidence was being built right into her frame. By late 1944, Japan was fighting a war it couldn't win anymore. American bombers reached the homeland almost every day, and fuel shortages messed up every fleet movement. Yet Shinano was treated like a symbol that couldn't fail. In the dry docks of Yokosuka, welders worked day and night with the lights off. The ship still smelled like fresh steel and paint when her launch date was set. She wasn't ready, and everybody knew it. Hundreds of pipes were left unfinished. Bulkheads still didn't have proper sealing. The watertight doors were so newly put in that many had never been tested for pressure, but the order from the top was absolute. She has to sail. American bombers had already taken pictures of Yokosuka, and Tokyo was scared the carrier would get destroyed before ever leaving. So at 6 p.m. on November the 28th, 1944, Shinano eased out of the harbor under darkness. Her destination was Kura Naval Base, where she would finish getting ready and get her planes. Only a skeleton crew of trained sailors was on board, roughly 1/3 of what she needed. The rest were new recruits, yard workers, and mechanics still installing equipment as she steamed south. Even her escorts weren't coordinated. 3 destroyers, Isokaze, Hamikaze, and Yukikaze, followed behind her, not knowing that American submarines had been operating just off the Japanese coast for months. In theory, Shinano could survive multiple torpedo hits. In reality, she could barely survive a high-speed turn. She was the biggest moving target in the Pacific, and she had just left port into waters that didn't belong to Japan anymore. On the same night, the USS Archerfish patrolled the waters south of Tokyo Bay. For Commander Joseph Enright, this was his chance at redemption. He had commanded before and once failed to attack a major target because he was too careful. Now, with the war getting close to the end, he wanted a clean, decisive win. Just after 8 p.m, radar picked up a faint echo, far away, large and moving fast. It wasn't acting like a convoy, it was zigzagging at 20 knots. Enright took Archerfish up to periscope depth. Through the dim moonlight, a dark, massive shape appeared. Too big for a cruiser, too fast for a transport. He had never seen anything like it. He radioed the contact to headquarters but got no guidance, so he made the call himself to follow the target all night. For 6 tense hours, the submarine matched course and speed. Every few minutes, Enright would raise the periscope for a quick look, a silhouette sliding across the horizon, destroyers weaving behind it. He plotted each turn with a stopwatch, slowly getting the perfect attack angle. Inside the cramped control room, crewmen whispered at updates. The heat, the diesel fumes, and the tension were all unbearable. But Enright waited. Finally, around 3 a.m, Shinano made a turn that exposed her starboard side. Perfect. Stand by tubes 1 through 6, Enright ordered. The crew held their breath. Fire. 6 torpedoes left the tubes at 3:17. 45 seconds later, 4 violent explosions rolled through the water. The men of Archerfish could hear the explosions through the hull, deep, heavy, echoing, then silence. Enright turned away, diving deep to escape counterattack. No depth charges came, no pursuers followed, only the dull thump of a distant secondary explosions. The crew didn't know it yet, but they had just hit the biggest warship ever sunk by a submarine. Aboard Shinano, confusion spread immediately. The 4 torpedoes hit below the armored belt, flooding 3 boiler rooms and several storage compartments. The ship shook violently. Lights flickered. Pumps failed. Officers rushed to damage control stations, but most compartments still didn't have phone lines or intercoms. Orders had to be carried by messenger. Captain Toshio Ei, an experienced officer but new to Shinano, believed his ship could handle the damage. He ordered full speed ahead to reach shallow water near the coast, but speed only made the flooding worse. The unsealed bulkheads let water rush from one compartment to the next. Within 30 minutes, Shinano was tilting 5 degrees to starboard. Damage control teams made do with wooden plugs, mattresses, and even wrenches to tighten leaky fittings. The pumps were started by hand and immediately failed again. By 5 a.m, the tilt had grown to 10 degrees. Still, Officers told the crew that the carrier was safe. The destroyers circled nervously, unable to get close in the dark. When daylight came, the situation was beyond saving. Fuel, oil, and seawater sloshed through the lower decks. Fire rooms were left empty. The ship slowed to 10 knots, then 8. At 7 a.m., Shinano stopped dead in the water. Her tilt reached 15 degrees. Sailors crowded the flight deck, staring toward the horizon, waiting for orders to abandon ship. Captain Abe refused. He believed the ship's armor would save her, that to abandon now would be disgraceful. He ordered the destroyers to tow her towards the coast. The strain snapped the tow cables almost right away. By 9 a.m., the tilt passed 20 degrees. Crewmen began jumping into the sea on their own. Others were trapped below decks as compartments flooded faster than anyone could escape. At 10:18 a.m., the carrier rolled past 30 degrees. Abe gave the order. All hands, abandon ship. It was too late. At 10:57 a.m., Shinano heeled over completely, her massive hull slipping beneath the surface stern first. The sea closed over her in seconds. Out of roughly 2,400 people aboard, only 1,080 were rescued. Captain Abe went down with his ship. For the Imperial Navy, the loss was devastating. The biggest ship ever sunk by a submarine, gone after only 17 hours at sea. In Tokyo, shock turned quickly to silence. The Navy's top command hid all reports of the disaster. Even the surviving crew were ordered to keep it secret under threat of prison. To admit that Japan's mightiest carrier had been destroyed by a single submarine was unthinkable. The public wouldn't learn about Shinano's existence until after the war ended. For Commander Enright and his crew, the kill was doubted at first. When they reported sinking a big carrier, analysts at Pearl Harbor thought it was impossible. Only after the war did captured Japanese records prove it. Archerfish had sunk Shinano. The Navy gave Enright the Navy Cross and Archerfish's crew a Presidential Unit citation. It was the greatest single ship kill in submarine history. Yet beyond the numbers, the sinking meant something deeper. It showed the end of an era when armor and size were considered strength. The Shinano proved that speed, training, and technology mattered more than sheer size. In the new age of naval warfare, submarines, aircraft, and code-breaking, not battleships, ruled the sea. When Enright later thought back on the patrol, he said, "She was the biggest ship ever sunk by a submarine, and we never even knew her name until after the war." No photographs survive of Shinano underway, no combat record, no air group, no victories. Only a few rusting blueprints and the memories of those who built and lost her. She was meant to restore Japanese pride. Instead, she became a reminder of the dangers of overconfidence. Her story is a quiet one. No big battle, no dramatic gunfire, just the slow, inevitable collapse of faith in being unbeatable. In the end, silence won. A single submarine guided by patience and discipline erased 4 years of imperial ambition in one night. And as the ocean closed over Shinano, it closed over the age of the supership itself.